History is complex, and in today's digital world, discussions about history, especially on social media, can quickly become contentious. One such discussion revolves around the claim that the Irish were once slaves, just like Africans. But this claim is misleading, and for many, it's deeply offensive. So, let's break it down, separate fact from myth, and understand why this conversation is so important. Across social media, posts comparing Irish indentured servitude to African slavery have been circulating for years. Some argue that Irish people were enslaved in ways similar to Africans, often using historical images and misleading sources. Others push back, saying this narrative erases the brutal, systemic nature of African chattel slavery in America. The result? A heated debate that often leads to more division than understanding. This is where historical accuracy matters. First, let's define the terms. Indentured servitude was a contractual agreement. Irish indentured servants were forced into labor, often through harsh conditions, but their servitude had an end date. After serving their term, they could gain freedom, land, or economic opportunities. Chattel slavery, on the other hand, was lifelong and hereditary. African slaves were legally considered property, stripped of rights, and their children were also enslaved. This system was enforced by racial hierarchies that lasted for generations. While both were forms of unfree labor, they were not the same. Historian Liam Hogan has debunked the Irish slaves myth in extensive research, showing that while Irish people faced oppression, they were not treated the same as enslaved Africans. The work of Edward Baptist, The Half Has Never Been Told, and Ira Berlin, Many Thousands Gone, documents the realities of chattel slavery and its economic impact. The American Historical Association and Smithsonian Institution have also provided historical context that challenges the Irish slaves narrative. So, why does this conversation evoke such strong reactions? Because history shapes identity. For Black Americans, comparing indentured servitude to chattel slavery can feel like an attempt to minimize the generational trauma, systemic racism, and economic disparities that resulted from slavery. On the other hand, some white people may feel they are simply sharing history or challenging a narrative they see as one-sided. But here's the key. Having these conversations the right way is important. Instead of framing history as a competition of suffering, we should aim to learn from it, acknowledge its complexities, and recognize how it impacts our world today. So where do we go from here? It starts with listening, learning, and ensuring that historical facts, not internet myths, guide our discussions. The goal isn't to silence or shame, but to foster a deeper understanding. Because when we engage with history honestly, we create space for meaningful dialogue and a more informed society.